Right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're taking a magnifying glass to one of the most complex, high stakes recruitment gauntlets in the international public sector. We're unpacking this really dense 50-point strategic guide for landing the UN Chief of Service position for the Strategic Heritage Plan. That's a D1 level role based out of Geneva, by the way. So, whether you're a prospective candidate bracing yourself for the Inspira platform or you're just genuinely fascinated by the sheer scale of how the UN operates, we're going to break down exactly what they're looking for step by step. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The stakes, understanding the SHP. 2. Hard requirements and languages. 3. Acing the process with Inspira and interviews. 4. Executing the mission in the D1 role. And finally, 5. 2028, the finish line. All right, moving right along to Section 1, the stakes, understanding the SHP. So, what exactly is this mandate we're talking about? Listen, the Strategic Heritage Plan is absolutely not just a routine paint job and swapping out some old carpets. We are talking about one of the most consequential capital renovations in modern United Nations history. You've got to remember, this project directly touches a principal duty station of the UN. It's a massive, historically significant compound. You're literally tasked with preserving the Palais des Nations, which is an incredibly scrutinized diplomatic hub, all while it remains completely 100% operational. Just imagine trying to replace the roof and entirely overhaul the tech infrastructure while thousands of diplomats are actively negotiating global treaties right down the hall. Evaluators need a leader who truly grasps that this is a massive construction project, a razor-thin financial tightrope, and a highly delicate governance exercise all rolled into one. Okay, let's jump right into Section 2, hard requirements and languages. Now, before you even get a foot in the door, the UN screens for absolute technical coherence. Just having general management skills, that simply won't cut it here. You need a rock-solid minimum of 15 years of progressive responsibility in areas like HR, procurement, or finance. And crucially, 7 of those years must be explicitly, undeniably tied to large-scale international project management. Honestly, if your career narrative doesn't mathematically add up to this exact level of seniority, the system is just going to filter you out immediately. And here's a classic applicant trap you absolutely must avoid. Do not conflate mere proximity to a project with actual senior-level accountability. Saying you were involved in budget monitoring, that is a huge red flag. The UN panel is aggressively testing for direct ownership. You have to provide verifiable proof that you held the reins, you owned the budget, and you were the one making the tough calls when things got complicated. Also, because you're going to be based in the Geneva duty station, language isn't just some nice-to-have resume booster. It's your daily survival tool. You need strict level 3 fluency in both English and French. I mean, you'll be drafting dense intergovernmental reports in both of these languages constantly. Now, if you happen to possess a third UN language, say Arabic or Mandarin, even at a level 1 proficiency, that becomes a massive differentiator that can really pull your application right to the top of the pile. Moving on to Section 3, acing the process, focusing on Inspira and the interviews. So, once you actually enter the Inspira platform, you need to consider your application locked in a vault. As this timeline clearly shows, from the exact second you hit submit on your personal history profile, absolutely no amendments can be made before you face the panel. Period. Your documents must perfectly mirror the specific language of the vacancy from day one. You've got to get it right on the first try. Now, if you make it to the interview stage, the panel is going to rigorously test you against 5 core competencies: professionalism, planning and organizing, accountability, leadership, and judgment. But here's the kicker. They are looking for isolated textbook definitions of these words. They want integrated proof. So, for example, when they ask about judgment, they want you to prove exactly how you identify critical issues and politically sensitive situations, and how you verify your assumptions against hard facts before taking action. When you're structuring your answers, you basically have to act as your own defense attorney, using this evidence-based STAR sequence. Assertions alone are never going to be enough. You have to show, not just tell. You need to draw on verified data, clearly attribute outcomes to your specific actions, and frankly, acknowledge project risks with absolute candor rather than trying to sweep them under the rug. And of course, always propose forward-looking solutions. Keep in mind, too, that your chosen references must be able to explicitly verify those big project delivery claims you're making. The UN anticipates, and honestly demands, strict verification. The consistency between the stories you tell in your interview and what your referees confirm later is absolutely paramount. Any exaggeration? It will definitely be caught during their comprehensive background checks. Trust me on that. All right, let's look at Section 4, Executing the Mission, the D1 role. Let's take a second to demystify some UN jargon here, specifically the FTA limited appointment. In plain terms, this means your tenure is directly tethered to the project's financial survival. If the funding stops or the mandate ends, your position literally vanishes. Poof. So as a leader, you must proactively manage those project risks because your actual day-to-day employment relies entirely on successfully hitting those financial milestones. Operationally speaking, you aren't just sitting there pushing paper, you are leading people. You'll be overseeing a highly diverse, mixed workforce of about 16 direct staff alongside numerous external contractors, all while reporting directly to the project director. In this high-pressure environment, you really have to be a role model that a complex international team actually wants to follow and respect. And remember, this role is never solely technical. It's a massive, ongoing governance marathon. You are the continuous, vital link between the UN office at Geneva, headquarters over in New York, and the wider common system. You are going to be defending reports to intense intergovernmental bodies like the ACAPQ and the General Assembly. Basically, every single stakeholder interaction you have is going to be under a microscope. Furthermore, upholding zero tolerance for sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, that is definitely not just some procedural footnote you sign off on during onboarding. It is a substantive, non-negotiable dimension of your daily leadership. You are fully expected to actively enforce gender balance and actively build a workplace culture that truly internalizes the UN's core values. No exceptions. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, 2028, the finish line. You see, the Strategic Heritage Plan is entirely oriented around one very specific, immovable finish line, and that is the end of 2028. What this means is that from your very first day on the job, you are essentially strategizing how to gracefully work yourself out of that job. Every single decision, every cost control measure, and your documentation must be purposefully aimed at an orderly handover, anticipating closure risks years before the terminal phase actually arrives. So, as you reflect on this incredibly rigorous 50-point framework, you have to ask yourself, do you have the precise, verifiable evidence required to lead this historic architectural and organizational transformation? The demands here are absolutely monumental. But for the right leader, safeguarding the future of global diplomacy, well, that is a legacy unlike any other. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.